Join me as I take you on a journey into one of the most painful and important parts of human history, the transatlantic slave trade. This was not just a story of ships and trade routes, it was a story of human suffering, survival, and the way greed reshaped entire continents. The transatlantic slave trade began in the 15th century and lasted for over 400 years. During this time, more than 12 million Africans were captured, sold, and shipped across the Atlantic Ocean. Families were torn apart, villages were destroyed, and entire societies were destabilized. Men, women, and children were packed into ships under horrific conditions. Disease, starvation, and abuse claimed countless lives even before reaching the Americas. Why did this happen? At the heart of it was money and power. European empires like Portugal, Britain, France, and Spain saw enslaved Africans as the fuel for their booming economies. Plantations in the Americas needed cheap labor to grow sugar, cotton, tobacco, and coffee. These products were then shipped back to Europe and sold for huge profits. This cycle became known as the triangular trade. Europe sent goods to Africa, enslaved Africans were sent to the Americas, and raw materials were shipped back to Europe. But it wasn't only Europeans who were involved. Some African rulers and merchants also played a role, selling captives from rival tribes or wars to European traders. This complicated web of alliances and betrayals shows just how widespread the trade became. The justifications used to defend this system were based on racism and dehumanization. Africans were described as less than human, as property rather than people. This allowed traders and slave owners to commit terrible acts without guilt, believing they were doing nothing wrong. These lies laid the foundation for centuries of racial prejudice and inequality that still exist today. Yet, even in the face of unimaginable cruelty, enslaved people resisted. Some rebelled on ships during the Middle Passage, others fought back on plantations. The Haitian Revolution of 1791, led by enslaved Africans, became one of the most powerful symbols of resistance, proving that freedom was worth fighting for. Their victory sent shockwaves across the world. Meanwhile, in Europe and the Americas, abolitionist movements began to grow. Writers, activists, and former slaves like Olaudah Equiano exposed the horrors of slavery to the public. Over time, the pressure became too strong to ignore, and country by country, the trade was abolished. But the damage had already been done. Millions of lives lost, cultures disrupted, and entire generations forced into suffering. The legacy of the transatlantic slave trade is still with us today. From the music, languages, and traditions of the African diaspora to the systemic racism and economic inequalities that continue to exist, its impact is everywhere. To understand the present, we must never forget this past. So, as we reflect on this painful history, let's remember that learning about it isn't just about the past. It's about building a better future. A future where the mistakes of history are not repeated, and where every human being is valued with dignity and respect. If you want to dive deeper into this subject, make sure to check out my next video, where I'll explore how enslaved people kept their culture alive in the midst of oppression. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let's keep this conversation going.